again, we're committed to ending those health inequities. So we think of this sort of the sickle cell community is really the heart of everything that we do, from the science aspect to the community aspect, to the knowledge aspect. We have put together a whole a campaign around just understanding what sickle cell is, and the implications of sickle cells for those individuals who are living with it. So we have a deep commitment to our mission and a deep commitment to the overall community. Okay. With that being said, we'll go ahead and we'll get into our presentation. We have an esteemed guest for you. And I'm going to be very honest. On my usual platform, I usually have my notes on the left-hand side here. And so I can read through my notes, but we have a different setup here today, which is fine. So I'm going to go off memory. Dr. Patricia Adams Graves is someone who I've worked with on and off for the last year or so. She is an amazing speaker, amazing doctor, and I really love working with her. Dr. Adams Graves is a medical staff member at the Krause Diggs Medical Center. She got her medical degree from the University of Louisville. She has been she has been an investigator on over 30 trials that are specific to sickle cell. And she has also, I believe that she is on the board of reviewers for the Journal of Hematology. So wonderful to have her here today. Dr. Adams Graves, I hope I got all of your stats correct. I hope I did you justice, and I'm going to turn it over to you at this point.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, and thank you to the Piedmont Group. I am so honored and blessed to be a part of this group. I do like to expand on me. Basically,
yes,
what I need you guys to know is I am a hematologist, and I did some of my training at St. Jude. I did an interview at St. Jude today, actually, but I am on the adult side. I'm an adult provider, but I did research at St. Jude during my training in the 90s. I also have this condition in my family. So I have a little channeled anger because over my 30 years of caring for individuals with sickle cell, especially adults, like you said, there is a disparity that, is quite obvious. So for medical equity, I have just transitioned in retirement over to full-time advocacy as chairman of the board of directors of the Sickle Cell Foundation of Tennessee, where we provide social services and try to target unmet needs, not just the medical care. So I just wanted everybody to know that I am not just a speaker, provider, doctor. I'm also an advocate. Matter of fact, I consider myself the Muhammad Ali. Okay, I'm in the fight. So one of the things GBT has done that I'm proud of to be a part of it is they have developed, I think it's the third drug over 100 years in America for individuals with sickle cell that targets the molecular pathogenesis. You don't see that in any other condition. We had just one drug from the 1990s forward until this drug and a few others. So now we have maybe about four. So I wanted to make sure that you knew I was a part of those developments of those drugs. So I'm ready for the presentation, Tiffany. I won't be able to use the pointer, but at least I can, get through the presentation without boredom. Okay. Can you make it bigger? Okay. I got old eyes. Okay. I have to read a disclaimer. This is a promotional presentation about Oxbryta or voxelotor and sickle cell disease. I am here to represent GBT, the maker of Oxbryta. I'm being paid by GBT, thank the Lord, to make this presentation. In retirement, I am on a fixed income, so this is kind of nice. The program is providing education specifically on this medication for sickle cell disease. And I want to encourage everyone to become my patient today without officially being my patient. I can't discuss any of your medical history. I am not here to provide individual care, but I am here to educate you. Next slide. So, what is sickle cell disease? Most of this group already knows this. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this. And furthermore, I'm not going to read every single word of every single slide. I will summarize. As most of you know, there's only about 100,000 Americans living with sickle cell, millions in Africa. And if you compare this 100,000 to diabetes and other conditions, this is considered, sickle cell is considered a rare blood disorder, chronic condition in America. So I think that's one of the reasons why there hasn't been a lot of traction, because we don't have a lot of people shouting and screaming about sickle cell disease in America. Now, it does follow other backgrounds such as Southern Europeans, Middle Easterns, Asians, and Indians. I had Saudi Arabians in my practice. Next slide. And as you know, it's inherited, okay, from people who either have children who have trait and pass the gene along. They show the example of the father who actually has sickle cell disease and the mother has the trait. So 50%, if it was a perfect world, if these two people had 100 children, about 50 would have sickle cell in a perfect world, and 50 would be like the mom trait. Next slide. So, what is the role of hemoglobin in the red blood cell? The red blood cell is where the sickle defect is. And if you look at this left-hand panel, where you just see those little donut-shaped round cells, they're healthy in this picture. They're soft, pliable, they can squeeze through small blood vessels. And then on the right side shows the hemoglobin. You cannot see the hemoglobin in the cells. Matter of fact, you can't see the cells without a high-powered microscope. So this hemoglobin is dissolved within the red cell, just like I think you guys are a northern group, I'm not sure, but in the South, there's this sweet tea that's made all the time, okay? And if you try to dissolve sugar in cold tea, it falls out of solution. You keep stirring and stirring and stirring, and some of it'll sink down to the bottom. It'll fall out. But you can taste the sugar in the part where you can't see the fallout of sugar granules, but you can't see it. And so hemoglobin is similar to that. It's dissolved in the red cell solution. The red cells are like a bag of fluid. Like I like to use an analogy of a balloon that's full of water, and you can, squish it around and make different shapes, shake it up, okay, and it's flexible, okay. So red cells are similar to that. Next slide. Now, in sickle cell, if you look at the left side, you'll see that you could have the healthy red cells carrying the oxygen, free flowing through the bloodstream. The little pick under the red cell is demonstrating a blood vessel with the red cells flowing through them. The hemoglobin or molecules carry oxygen, and oxygen is denoted here as those little blue dots. And if you move over to sickle cells, what happens is that little bag of fluid ruptures and gets a little pinhole in it, and all of the contents will sort of leak out, but also the hemoglobin, sugary granules, clump up, okay, and form the sickle cell. So instead of this bag of fluid, it becomes stiff, and the hemoglobin pushes the membrane out, so it makes this abnormal shape called sickle cells. And while it's in this shape, it cannot carry oxygen throughout the body, which is not good. That means that the organs, tissues, muscles do not get enough oxygen. Next. So the sickling process is called polymerization, which is triggered by various stimuli. And there are three serious consequences that may lead to acute, sudden, or long term damage in, in the body. What happens again, like I said, if it poops out like this, starts to leak, and all the contents inside the cell leaks out into the system, and the sickle cell perishes. And that cycle occurs, which results in too few red blood cells, which is called anemia. That's what makes you tired. Also, what happens is that if you look at the blood vessel below, those sickle cells are stiff and sticky and plug up blood vessels and interrupt blood flow and cause pain. Now, the first pic where you see it sort of looks like a little messy cell, that is actually called hemolysis. That's when the cell ruptures, okay? But you still have some cells left over, okay, which are fewer in number. Next. So the breakdown or the release of all that inside the cell is called hemolysis, causes also an increase of a couple of substances that we can actually measure in the lab at the hospital or in the clinic. One of those is called bilirubin. Bilirubin is a yellow pigment that is released when the cells rupture. And you can see it in the eyes of some individual, the yellowing, and oftentimes children are mistakenly stigmatized as having an infection, hepatitis, or something another kid can catch. But actually, it's a part of the anemia where the cells burst and release these nasty contents into the bloodstream. Now, we all have cells that burst. We just don't have as many cells as sickle cell individuals. So my bilirubin level that I can measure on myself is low, so my eyes don't turn yellow. The next thing that occurs when these cells break down is the blood making organ, which is the bone marrow. Inside the bone is the blood making factory for all of our cells, including the red cell. And when these cells rupture and you become anemic, which is all sickle cell individuals pretty much, you have these baby red cells that are pushed out of the bone marrow to replace those cells. So the bone marrow has to work 10 times normal. Those baby red cells are called reticulocytes. And you'll often hear an emergency room doctor say their retic count is elevated, so they must be in a crisis. Well, I'm glad they see something because, sometimes they don't even believe individuals with sickle cell have pain or in a crisis. So that's those two things. And again, number two, lastly, is the impact of the hemolysis when the red blood cells break down, too few cells, and those substances promote inflammation and organ damage because of the inability of the sickle cells to carry oxygen throughout the body. Now, only about 7% of your red cells are sickled. So sickle cells go in and out of carrying oxygen, releasing oxygen, and then some of them break down, but not all of them. So there is a balance there. Next. So having too few red cells, of course, again, is anemia, and I just explained why. But the symptoms of having too few red cells, the symptoms of anemia, difficulty thinking or concentrating, feeling weary, less ability to do strenuous things and sports, feeling weak and tired. So, the impact of anemia is the lack of adequate oxygen delivery throughout the body. Next. So, now we'll switch over to Oxbryta, what it is, how it works. And Oxbryta is a prescription medication for the treatment of individuals with sickle cell disease and children 4 years of age and older. Now, it's not known whether it's safe in children under 4. So, therefore, GBT cannot promote the use of it in a 3 or a 2-year old. Okay. It was approved under an accelerated approval based on the increase in the hemoglobin and the improvement or the reduction in anemia. Next. So, when sickle cells, if you look at the left panel, when sickle cell hemoglobin does not carry oxygen, again, that's just not a good thing. So the middle panel demonstrates the release of oxygen and the beginning of that sickling process that you see on the far right. I can't use my pointer, but if you look at the left, the middle, and the right, it's just that process reiterated called polymerization. Next. So, what does Oxbryta do? It actually interferes with that polymerization or the sickling process, okay, to improve the health of each red blood cell, okay? Moreover, once it attaches to the hemoglobin, it stabilizes the hemoglobin and therefore less oxygen is released inappropriately. So oxygenation is better. And guess what? That results in more red blood cells and it improves the anemia. Next. This is showing an actual blood smear of an individual living with sickle cell. If you look at the left panel, and it shows you the red blood cells in the magnifying glass, and then below there shows you a sickle cell and a normal cell. And this was before Oxbryta, and it was just a demonstration. The reviewer pathologist had no idea whether this person was on or off of Oxbryta to make it fair. But if you look at day 21 on 15 milligram per day of Oxbryta treatment, look at the increase of red blood cells. So if you look at the left panel, you see there are a lot of clear spaces between the cells. If you look at the right panel, fewer spaces, more cells, fewer sickle cells. That's great. So this just shows the blood itself of a live individual living with sickle cell on and off of Oxbryta. So it works. Next. Okay, so now we're going to transition into the clinical trial information of how we got to this point to know if Oxbryta would even work. So they like to start, which is good. GBT likes to start with the important safety information. And one of the things with this drug and any drug, if you take it for the first time and have a bad allergic reaction, hives, difficulty breathing, shortness of breath, all of those, that's called a severe anaphylactic reaction. It's treatable, but it could be life-threatening. You'll never see this drug ever again. You're to be careful to make sure your health care provider, which they should already know, understand your basic health with your sickle cell, such as, do you have liver problems? That makes a difference on how your body handles the drug. Are you breastfeeding? Are you pregnant? Those are some of the things that your doctor needs to know in prescribing you any medication, including Oxbryta. And one of the things you should avoid taking is anything over the counter without consulting with your doctor, such as St. John's wort during the treatment of oxbryta. It can affect the levels in your body. It can have a drug-drug interaction. So certain herbal supplementations are not compatible with oxbryta. Next. So here are the two studies. The HOPE trial we participated in was uh, developed and designed to study patients that are 12 years of age and older. They took a whole tablet, swallowed it, and the next one was Hope Kids 1, which mimicked the same study, but the age range was 4 to less than 12 years rather than all adults or 12 years and up. Next. The goal of the study, okay, the trial period was 24 weeks with a monitoring observation of 72 weeks. And again, the trial participants included those that were 12 years of age to age 65. And the main goal is to see if oxbryta would raise the hemoglobin at least 1 gram per deciliter. Okay. The study groups were well divided. Half of the participants got oxbryta. The other half got a sugar pill, which is very important to make sure that, what you're seeing is actually the drug rather than the sugar pill. Okay. So you got to have that, what we call control arm. The people were informed that they may not be getting oxbryta. Both groups were allowed to continue their hydroxyurea use if they were on a stable dose for 3 months. And so there was no problem. And the most common side effect included headache, diarrhea, a little stomach ache, pain, nausea, rash, hives, fever. But none of these stopped the participants from continuing on, except for a few. So these side effects occur, and sometimes it's due to the medication, and sometimes you'll just see it in the placebo just as often. See how important that is. If the placebo sugar pill people show these same rates of these things, then it's not likely that it was oxbryta, but it could be. So you have to be careful, well informed, and make sure you understand that these could happen on oxbryta. Next. So what were the results? Well, oxbryta significantly increased the hemoglobin levels to more than 1 gram per deciliter. That doesn't sound like very much, but if you think about someone, I'm going to give you a scenario. I have sickle cell individuals that are Jehovah's Witnesses. They won't take blood. They run hemoglobins. Normal for, say, a woman is 12. They run like 6. And if you take someone like that who runs hemoglobins of 6, okay, and increase them by 1, now all of a sudden they're 7 and they feel better. They have a little more energy. They're still anemic, but there's a great improvement. Okay. Now, if you look over on the right side, some individuals, 42%, actually increased their hemoglobin to 1.5 grams per deciliter, and 27% improved it by 2. So if you can imagine walking around with a hemoglobin of 6, normal's 12, and all of a sudden your hemoglobin's 8, that's doggone pretty good for sickle cell. Next. This is just showing the follow-up and whether it was sustainable. And if you look at 1, which is the target level, there were quite a few people above 1, but look across all the way over to 72 weeks. It was sustainable. That's what that shows on 1,500 milligrams a day. Next. So what else was observed? Well, oxbryta actually, remember that yellow pigment, bilirubin? That's a sign of that hemolysis or rupture of the red cells. That decreased 29%. So those yellowy eyes, became more white because there's less pigment floating around from cells rupturing, and it lowered the rate of hemolysis. So that's a good sign that it did its job. Okay. So that yellow eye improved. Next, another marker is the reticulocyte count. So if you're anemic and your bone marrow says, whoops, I need more blood cells, it'll work 10 times normal, kick more baby red reticulocytes out. That was lowered. It had less of a need to work hard like that. It still has to work. It's not normal, but it's a marked improvement of the anemic state. Next. So, what what can we draw from the Hope Kids 1 clinical trial? Well, it was comparable to the 12 to 65 age group, very comparable. The only difference is they fast tracked it and there was no sugar pill group. It was open label. Everybody was on it and they just wanted to see if these participants can increase their hemoglobin and reduce the hemolysis. And also, they too were allowed to continue hydroxyurea throughout the trial. Next. So, what were the results? Similar, okay? 36% increased to 1, 47%, a little higher at 24 weeks. Moreover, quite a few of them were up to 1.5 grams per deciliter above their baseline, and quite a few were at 2. So it was a very comparable result. In other words, the age made no difference, but they did have to adjust the dosing because a little 4-year-old does not need 1,500 milligrams. So there is a scale and a calculation that has to be done. They did provide a smaller pill. Okay, so that's how they overcame um, that dosing issue. Next. So additional safety information, I've already mentioned the headache. And when I have actually seen the headache, and I had a couple of patients that just refused to adjust or take a pause and come back on it. They just knew it was Oxbryta. I couldn't get them back on. So they said it worked and I feel better, but that headache, Dr. Graves, I can't stand it. So, it's an individual choice, but let your doctor know before you stop. Because one of the things that I have found, even with my doctor, be honest with them. Don't let them operate on false information and act like you're taking something you're not taking. They'll want to increase it or do something. You're not taking it. So be sure you let them know, look, I can't take this. And then have the conversation as to whether you want to modify, continue, or actually discontinue for good. And that is when you have side effects. Now, but remember the severe one, the anaphylaxis, where you have hives, shortness of breath, wheezing, you could pass out, you have to go to the emergency room. Don't take it ever again. That's when you really need not to take it. But those other side effects that you can see here, a little rash that occurs without being serious, or headache, those are the things that are negotiable, whether to stay on it or come off of it. Next. So I've already addressed it. This is all those side effects that were seen in both studies. I probably didn't talk about the children's side as much. The children had fever, but with sickle cell, you can have fever. It's hard to say whether that was directly a result of Oxbryta, vomiting, rash, stomach ache, diarrhea, and headache was lower on the list than with the adults. So the children had a little different experience, but still, you have to be aware of the possibility of having experience with these side effects and talk to your doctor. Always, always get the advice from your doctor. If you need to, there are some supportive things Tiffany discussed. You can report these effects to the FDA. I had an allergic reaction to a vaccine. I was allergic to a component. I didn't know that the component was there. I had a bad reaction, and I personally reported it to the FDA. They were very gracious and documented my experience so other people can read about it and know that can happen. Obviously, I didn't pass away from it. I mean, but it was pretty bad. Next. So, Oxbryta comes in uh, two forms, two dosage forms. The adult form is a 500 milligram tablet, and you take 3 a day, period. Fixed dose. The children's dose is a 300 milligram tablet. For oral suspension, a lot of 4-year-olds can't swallow pills yet. So, dissolving it into a clear drink allows them to be able to self administer, okay, the medicine. The adult formulation is not to be crushed, not to be dissolved, and not to be cut. But those are the things that your doctor will specifically go over with you. Matter of fact, GBT has specific educational literature for every patient, a startup kit that explains it, has pictures. And so you shouldn't have any problem if you choose to take it, or you may already be on it. Next. Okay, so the information on how to take it, you could take it with and without food. And if you miss a dose, just pick up the next day at your current dose. And remember, if you miss that dose, it's not that big of a deal. Just pick up at your current dose the next day. And your healthcare provider will give you all of your prescriber information. And remember not to take it with that St. John's wort. That's an over the counter to help with people who have difficulty sleeping. Please don't take that with Oxbryta. It has a negative drug-drug interaction. And you can get full information from GBT. They are very easy to read, very user-friendly. Next. And here's the GBT resources, and Tiffany can actually go over all this and provide you with this information for their care coordinators, their access navigators, their nursing support team, and how you could get the drug if it's not covered on your insurance. They have a program to help you get it. Next. So I think in summary, there are these cases, okay, that they want you to know about, okay. First of all, it's the first of its kind for treatment of sickle cell. It's a pill for ages 4 years and over. So it's very convenient. You can take it from the comfort of your home. And the most common side effects, I've seen some of these: headache, diarrhea, stomach ache, pain, nausea, rash, hives, fever, vomiting. And when studied in people with sickle cell, it was shown to be well tolerated overall. And so it works by interfering with that sickling process or polymerization to improve red blood cell health. And it has shown to improve hemoglobin levels and reduce anemia. Next. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. So Tiffany, I thought there was a video to play. So maybe you want to play the video, or do you want me to go to Q&A? Oh, there's a question from Kevin Elwood. It says, so is it better for a patient to take it with hydroxyurea or in place of it? I think either way, because the people that took it that were not on hydroxyurea still experienced the benefits of Oxbryta. If you're already on hydroxyurea, Hydroxyurea has a different target. It is actually designed to reduce pain. It also can improve anemia. So if you're already on it and keep taking it, that's fine. But if you're not on hydroxyurea, Oxbryta still has shown its benefits. Any other questions? Any other questions? Monica, okay. Is this medicine covered by most insurance companies? Now, I'm going to let GBT and the company address that, but I truly believe that quite a few cover this medication. However, Monica, if it doesn't, GBT will help you get it through a special assistance program. I have patients who were unable to get it, and then we have it in our specialty pharmacy now, so we have absolutely no problems getting it for our patients across the board. Any other questions? Just being Tina. Is there a payment? Yes, there is. And Tiffany could, after the Q&A session, I will ask Tiffany, actually, she could put it back up, where to call, how to get your assistance. Yes, yes, and yes. Any other questions? When is a good time to talk to your doctor about the medication? At your visit. Matter of fact, you can just call them on the phone. Some have telehealth. I don't know if yours does, or you could do it at your next scheduled appointment. But don't be shy. I mean, call and say, "Can I have a telehealth? Will you have my doctor call me back?" So there's room to do it over the phone, and then they will get you the information official and get you prescribed. And if there is a problem with your insurance, there's time to get that worked out. But you don't have to wait. When you want to, that's when.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, we were having technical difficulties, doctor. I didn't mean to leave you by yourself there. So,
It's
um,
all
but I did hear that there were a couple of questions about reimbursement and access, and thank you so much. You handled them beautifully. There are a number of different resources that we have within GBT that can help you with any sort of access issue that you have. The doctor was correct. We are accepted by most healthcare systems and most insurance companies. But definitely make sure that you go to our website. The website is www.oxbryta.com. And if you go navigate yourself to patient materials, it can there's a portal there that'll take you directly to GBT Source, and they can give you all the information that you need to just read through at your own leisure. And then you can also interface with your own, you can open a case, open an account, and it's a white glove service. So you'll have your own worker who can help you through navigate, not only for you, your doctor's office as well, can help you navigate through that system of trying to get access. So thank you so much for answering that question with me, doctor. Okay. Looks like someone said great presentation. Thank you so much. Definitely appreciate it. It says, should parents talk to pediatricians about medicine?
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
It's your body, your life.
Mhm.
And the parent definitely has to, because you have to give permission for all care.
Mhm.
Um, and I was so glad to transition my grown kids away from that. I didn't have to do that anymore. But as a parent, you need to do that. And guess what? There are tools and information to help a child understand, you
Mhm.
know. And if you go to your pediatrician, usually there's an education nurse, but there's GBT. GBT is there for you. They can explain things to you as a parent so that you can explain it to your child.
Mhm.
And that parent child relationship is a matter of whether or not how you want to handle it for your child. And then if your child is willing to take it, then you start giving it to them. But I
Mhm.
think it's important for the child to do the dosing. I think it's important for the parent to do the dosing to make sure they dissolve the proper amount into a clear liquid before the child takes it, rather than letting a 8-year-old do it.
Mhm.
I would prefer that. I guess a teenager could do it when you observe them, but you would know your own child and how responsible they are. So I would recommend that the parent doses the child, making
Mhm.
sure the right doses dissolve properly, and then observe them taking it for compliance and accuracy.
Awesome. Awesome. We have a question about if the medicine is offered outside the United States. We are currently moving forward to that platform. There are some things that are sort of happening. I know that that expansion, that global expansion, has been something that we've been focused on for the last couple of years or so. It's currently not available in most places worldwide, but definitely check the website to see if you have a specific area in mind. Check the website to see if it's available in that area. But the overall goal for us is to make sure that people worldwide have access to this therapy. It's something that's truly important, as the doctor mentioned earlier. There are a lot of people worldwide and Africa who would, for many years, the only thing that they have access to or had access to was hydroxyurea. And so now they have access to a ton of different therapies from multiple makers. But we want to make sure that they have access to this particular therapy as well, because it is very niche and it's different than what most medicines are, most of those therapies in the market. As a matter of fact, I have a question for you, doctor. Can you talk through the differences between the medicines that are currently available on the market and what they do?
Oh, I didn't know I could do that.
Oh, you know what? You might not be able to. So we'll scratch that for now. But what I will say is
Well,
we
that would be, uh, if I was like in my independent using my own slides, that's what
have.
I do. It. I do those talks, but not when I'm representing GBT.
Okay, then
But
that's
I can say that there are pipeline drugs coming out and that it's online, and you need to look up new FDA approved drugs for sickle cell disease, and then you can read about it yourself.
Mhm. We have another question about dosing, and it asks, "Is this a once a day medicine?" I
Yes,
know.
it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And it's
Yeah.
oral, once a day oral.
Yes. Yes, yes, and yes.
So I don't see anything else. I know that you guys are going to be moving on. I do have some materials that I'm going to throw in. Oh, I can't comment. Oh, okay, different platform. We're learning as we go, you all. I am going to follow up with Dr. Norcott with some additional information for you all. I have a patient brochure that goes over the lion's share of the information that was shared from the doctor today. I also have some information about access and about GBT source. So I'll make sure that I put that in there as well. The box insert, the prescribing information is important for everybody to understand and be able to read through their box inserts for any medicine that you take. So we want to make sure that you guys have access to that. And then I might throw something else in there for you. It'll have to be a follow up to our discussion today. So my apologies for that, but I'll make sure that you have that information. Dr. Anderson, thank you so much. And again, I love me some Miss Norcott. You don't have to worry about any wringing of necks from me. We made it work. It was beautiful. And I truly, truly appreciate our partnership of all of the partners of all of the organizations that we work with nationwide. Piedmont is one of my favorite, and we do a lot of events with you all. So when I say that, they really, really are committed to making sure that you guys have great information and that you feel supported and that you are supported, they really, really do. And I can see it from my purview. So we appreciate that. We know that you guys work really hard to cultivate these safe spaces for yourselves. And so we don't take it lightly that you've invited us into yours for today. And so from GBT, I just want to say thank you all.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Dr. Pat. We really appreciate any time that we can partner with you. Tiffany, you can jump on our Facebook page and you can drop any comments that you want. We'll make sure
Yeah.
that they get shared to anybody that's with us today. And you're just awesome. That's all I can say. You just
You
uh,
are as well. You are as well. We
so, and
appreciate
I
it.
do appreciate your support. And
Yeah.
this, we're just trying to educate our people, our clients, not our people. We're trying to educate our clients, educate the community, because they hear so many bad things about sickle cell
Mhm.
disease, and they talk so bad about
Mhm.
our clients, and I'm
Yeah.
just I'm just frustrated with it, because
Yeah.
we work with them. Our agency been in existence for 52 years. I've been with the agency for 46. So I've seen some awesome people living with sickle cell disease doing some awesome and amazing things. So,
Yeah.
and now having new treatments, the word has to get out there so that the clients will understand that, oh, I heard about Ox Brighter. Uh,
Hmm.
what is it?
Absolutely.
Can
Yeah.
you give it to my child?
Hmm.
Can I take Oxbrighter?
Right. And
So sometimes when you demonstrate you know a little bit,
yeah,
people talk to you different.
they most certainly do.
They talk to you different because
They
they
do.
don't know. Yeah, they just don't know how much you really know. So we're gonna try to equip so they can act like they know a whole lot, just so they can get the treatments that are out there for them. So Tiffany, again, I appreciate you. I really do.
Appreciate you as well. I understand there's so many hurdles that our community and that the sickle cell community has to sort of get over that we understand are not necessarily fair. But to your point, when you have the information that you need and you arm yourself with that information, you can better prepare for difficulties, for pain, crises, for so many different things. So for you all to be committed to being a beacon of light in that way, and providing that information, so much appreciated, and we are so proud to be on that mantle with you. So
Okay. Have a wonderful rest of the day, but you can just switch on over to the Facebook Live and hang out with us and learn more. Because
yeah,
now we're going to part two of our presentations for today,
yeah,
because we're going to get to hear from the people living the
beautiful.
lived experiences, being able to tell their stories. And I guarantee you, the young people and they're all young people to me. To me, they're all young people.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I'm at
so,
that age too, where most people are starting to be young people to me. Like,
oh yeah. So, but anyway, I think you're going to enjoy the rest of our show.
yes,
So up for us now, we have a young lady that we met actually during our ninth annual sickle cell walk, and she's going to give us some spoken words.
They say I come from a history of people who had to fight. Said my war be hereditary, that my parents had no control over passing down this cross for me to carry. This cross is where I should go to in a crisis. So without knowing much about my family history, I learned how to conquer pain, how to be criminal on Calvary and still know well enough to call out to God when he's just 6 feet away. I was born a warrior. And as the daughter of soldiers, I know too well the importance of a prayer. It is just a sacrifice of time for a warrior's sacrifice of body. Too often, Life enlists us in a war that we never volunteered for, hands us a shield, and tells us to get ready for a fight. Is it God who calls us to war, or us succumbing to our circumstance? I've learned that when war is the only option, you never feel fully equipped for battle, and how easily that encourages our minds to entertain the idea of casualties. Feels like God had to have a good reason for deploying us into ourselves to battle an enemy with no face, with bombs strapped around their core that makes you pray harder for your children, because being born into your legacy means they're automatically drafted to the war. But for every woman called to carry warriors, God's hand cradles their lives a little longer than we deem necessary, keeps them close to his heart, breathes his word onto their flesh, and with his breath speaks to their diagnosis that you may bring pain, but you won't bring death. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And his mercies are a constant revival, a wave of grace that gives strength to every warrior that fights in his name. And isn't that a true proclamation of victory? He already put his blood on the battlefield just so that you can claim that by his stripes you're healed and you fight. He already put his blood on the battlefield so that you can proclaim that by his stripes you're healed and you fight even when you're hurting, and better than most heroes we read about, because warriors can't afford to stop because they're under attack or because the battleground has odds stacked against them. They press forward to gain ground, whether in tears or with a smile, sleep in uniform because, real talk, they're ready for anything. So suit up, put on a good face so you don't look like what you're going through. Lace up your boots, march to the drum of your heartbeat. Let it remind you that God is still God. Breathe, because your body is not casket, and you will need every bit of breath if a crisis comes. It isn't easy waking up in a war every day. But here you are in familiar territory, and battleground be all you know. Don't you know that you be hero too? You do not have to be fallen to be seen, to be honored. We see your strength in the shadows, a silhouette that is legacy. Warriors will forever inhabit prayers, but God inhabits our praise. So this praise is a prayer that you be miracle, that you march on for the sake of survivors. I don't know how long your battle has been, or how many times you've had to pray the same prayer just to keep going. What I do know is that you have the kind of strength that everyone is not born with. So be proud of your battle scars and share your war stories, because the legacy of a warrior lives on forever. And don't you know, we will never stop praying for you.
All right. Thank you, Chanel. I'm telling you, only they can tell the story, because they're the ones that are in the fight every day. So as we prepare for our next presentation, I had the opportunity to meet this young man during our summer camp. Our agency has been sponsoring a sickle cell summer enrichment camp for our children ages 6 to 16 for the last 38 years. There's one thing about sickle cell children, or children who have sickle cell disease: when they are not sick, they like all other little children and teenagers. So we take about, this year we only had about 25. We normally take about 65. And we get them from their moms on Sundays, and we don't return them to Friday. So they're out with us in the woods. Some of them get a little homesick that first night, lots of crying. By Monday noon, they don't know who mama is, mama, daddy is anymore. And we have our camp at Camp Carefree. It's in Stokesdale, North Carolina, and it was built for children with disabilities. So we have a heated pool, where even is wheelchair accessible. And they go in on Sunday. And on Thursday night, there's which is the night before they close because they go on Friday, leave on Friday, there's a dance. And this one particular year, the first year that we had a child in a wheelchair, I was really concerned about how she could really fit in with her peers, because I'm always conscious of trying to make sure that all of our clients are always comfortable. And camp is supposed to be about them being able to meet their peers. I apparently was the only one that was concerned about her comfortability, because she was very comfortable. Her peers chipped right in, made sure that she was included. And that night, that's when I really learned about chair dancing, because she in that wheelchair had a good time on that dance floor with her peers. They got there with her, and she just had herself a good time, which then just let me know that when we try to pigeonhole our children because they have this condition, that we're doing a disservice to them. We're not helping them. So our motto at camp is, I can. So you can't come and we introduce you to something new and you tell us that I can't, because we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear I can't. You're going to at least try. So they learn to play ball. They may not end up being a Michael Jordan, but they do learn that they can play with some of their peers. They have to learn how to hydrate themselves. They have to learn that if they go swimming, they have to make sure that they keep themselves as warm and dry as they possibly can. And like I said, and I told you they were 6 to 16. So we have 6 cabins originally. And so there's 6 cabins, they all in a row. So I put the older boys on one end and the older girls on the other end. And in the middle, I put the younger ones, because I needed them to tell me when the older ones got to sneaking around. Because one thing, they would meet each other on Sunday for the first time. By Thursday night, when they got to dress up for the dance, they were madly in love. And what I would get tickled about, nobody fell in love with anybody in the same city. Instead, they fell in love with the ones that was hours away. Mind you, none of them drive. And they weren't even going to see each other in the same major medical center when they went for checkups. And I would just laugh at them. But they created bonds with each other. They stayed in touch with each other. And I've been with the agency for 46 years. So I was at camp long before the cell phones and the Facebooks. And what was that first thing they had? MySpace. Long before that. But just watching them getting to know each other and learning from each other. The talks that they would have amongst themselves. And we've even found how they would be rubbing each other's backs and telling them what their moms would do for them at home, because they didn't want us to send them home. They had gotten used to camp and they wanted to be there. So, and over the time, people have said they need to be mainstream, but sometimes you just need to be with people who are like you. You need to assemble yourself around people who have the same beliefs, morals, but at the same time, although I've been here for 46 years, I have a nephew that has sickle cell. I've been around people living with sickle cell. I can't talk about the pain. I haven't experienced the pain. So being able to talk to each other about our woes, that really helps. That really helps. So I met this past year, we had 25 young people there. And I met this young man who he's 17 and he already had a story. And I was really fascinated by talking to him. Anybody's around me, one thing I asked adolescents, what did you learn new today? Well, he had about a 15-minute conversation with me about what he learned new that day. I will ask them, what are your plans? What are you going to do after high school? What are you going to, what college you going to go to? Uh, and he has this long list of plans. So I was really fascinated that he was going to be able to join us today. And I'm checking now to see if he's ready to come on, because I can't tell his story without him. And then we have a warrior that's going to tell us about her business. Her business. Now, we've since COVID, we've had so many people popping up with different businesses. Entrepreneurship has become a profession for some people. But what we can do, um, is also support our persons. So I've just got my word that my little 17-year-old is ready. So we will now hear from Amir Brown.
Hello, my name is Amir Brown and I'm 16 years old. I have sickle cell type SS. I attend Dixon High School and plan to become a nurse after graduating. I remember when I was about 6 or 7 years old when I was told I had sickle cell. I was in the hospital. And as a person living with sickle cell, I experienced challenges with keeping a healthy, fun rest balance. And because of that, I would end up in the hospital because I wasn't paying attention to how much water I needed to drink to stay healthy. Sickle cell has impacted how I planned my life because I wanted to stay close to family for support as I get scared on how much I can handle due to my disease. Sickle cell has also impacted how I communicate with my peers and how people approach me. Most people feel sorry after hearing I have sickle cell and try and treat me different, but eventually they just kind of realize I'm a just normal person with a sucky disease. It doesn't really do too much. I would like people to know that sickle cell is an invisible disease. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean another person doesn't have it. You can have a best friend or a cousin that you play around with and not even know that they have sickle cell until they end up in the hospital and they finally tell you. That's all I got.
Thank you, Amir. We appreciate you. I'd hoped that he was going to be able to be live so we could ask him some questions today, but he's down in the Jacksonville area, and they're having storms down there this way today. And so now we're going to hear from Miss Alana Wise. Alana?
My name is Elena Wise. I'm 41 years old and I have sickle cell hemoglobin SS disease. Sickle cell disease can be filled with physical, mental, and emotional challenges. Every day is different. You may have plans to do something and a crisis may flare up and prevent you from going. From there, the disappointment may make you depressed, and those mental and emotional triggers could add more stress, which can make the crisis more severe. It's like a vicious cycle. As I've aged, I've probably experienced at least one life threatening crisis every 10 years since I turned the age of 21. On the other hand, I've also experienced long spurts of not needing to be hospitalized at all and having the ability to treat my crises at home. So it's been a roller coaster of highs and lows with my experiences and having pain and managing that. Growing up, I didn't feel any different from my peers until about maybe high school. My mom did a really good job at providing a normal childhood. I did everything from tap dancing to performing in plays and taking art classes outside of school. It is extremely important for me to be mindful of my mental health while managing my sickle cell. I started crafting at a very early age, and it's been my coping mechanism getting through um, those times where I have to stay home and manage my crises. It can be isolating. So it gives me something to do to keep my mind off of the pain and also off of the fact that I can't be out there with my friends or doing other things that I would normally do. People living with sickle cell are not sickly patients that are laying around waiting for pain medicine. We're scientists, technologists, engineers, artists, mathematicians, educators, healthcare workers, athletes, civil employees, musicians. Um, we are products of HBCUs, PWIs, community colleges, and trade schools. We're your sorority sisters, we're your fraternity brothers, we're active members of our religious organizations, we feed our communities, um, we're your loved ones, and we add value to the spaces that are around us when we're there. The biggest stigma or bias I have experienced, I think we've all experienced this at some point, is that of being drug seekers. My very first experience of being accused of being a drug seeker, I was 14 years old, and my mother was rushing me to the emergency room to treat a crisis. We ended up leaving. I never got treated, never been seen by a doctor there, and we ended up having to go to another hospital for me to be treated. I have been I have experienced financial complications, but they have not been a direct result of having sickle cell disease. They've been for the same reasons that most people experience them. I've been laid off. I have been in the middle of economic crises like everyone else. And so that has been most of the reason why I have experienced financial crises. Um, I'm personally making the choice to avoid going to the emergency room. I'm making a plan to have all of my loved ones um, close to me and have all of my prescriptions filled in the event that I have a severe crisis. The plan is to treat as much as I can at home and wait for my hematologist to become available. I currently don't feel safe going to an emergency room. The quality of care lacks. There's a lot of negligence and there's a lot of discrimination. And my fear is dying in an emergency room due to that negligence and discrimination. Transitioning from childhood to adulthood, you definitely have to learn and work on taking care of yourself. My mother groomed me to be independent as a child. She encouraged me to read literature on the illness and to also speak up when things were unusual for me. She taught me how to advocate for myself, and that was helpful for the times that she wasn't around. Like when I graduated high school and went off to college, I learned how to speak up for myself and how to describe pain crises for myself and speak up on medications that I take and what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So during that transition, it's extremely important for a child to just learn how to vocalize the things that are going on with their body and advocate for themselves. So, my experience with employment with sickle cell. I have been working since the age of 16. I have worked at KFC, Walmart, the body shop. I've worked as a substitute teacher. I've been a graduate assistant. I've done temp work. I have transitioned from being an hourly employee to a salary employee. Currently, I am a full time graphic designer and a part time adjunct instructor. I do graphic design work for a packaging company, and um, I teach at North Carolina A&T State University. I teach a course in retail ready packaging, and display design. Um, there have been some challenges being a sickle cell patient and being in the working world, especially corporate America. Um, our illness is so unpredictable, right? You can get a crisis in the middle of the night, waking you up out of your sleep. Um, I have had a crisis sitting right here at this desk where I have had to get my stuff and drive to the hospital immediately. The biggest thing or the piece of advice that I would give someone who wants to work and who has this illness is to be as transparent as possible in the very beginning. Um, Talk to your hiring manager, supervisor, talk to HR, let them know that, hey, I do have this illness. I'm going to have more good days than bad days. But in the event of those bad days, I need flexibility. This is what you can expect from me when those bad days happen. Um, and most of the time, they're going to be supportive. A lot of times for me, my employees have been flexible. Um, some have gone above and beyond. It was surprising. I didn't expect it, but it has happened. Um, and then the other thing that has been a great help to me has been FMLA. FMLA has helped me um, be a person that has a disability in the working world. So I would say source that as well. Um, so those seem to be all of the interview questions. I thank you for listening to my interview. Um, I have designed these pins for Sickle Cell Awareness Month to celebrate the month of September for us. The proceeds that I earn will go to Camp Carefree for children with sickle cell to attend summer camp. And my chapter of my sorority, Kappa Delta Omega, my sorority is Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. They have agreed to match the funds that are raised by selling these pins and also make that donation to children attending summer camp at Camp Carefree. So I hope that you'll find it in your heart to make a purchase. And once again, I thank you for taking the time to listen to this interview. Have a great day.
Thank you, Elena. And again, we will be posting or showing you her website, and we do encourage you to go and support um, her, but also to help support the Sickle Cell Summer Enrichment Camp, sponsored by Piedmont Health Services and Sickle Cell Agency. And now we're going to have a performance by Erica Smith, whom I've had the pleasure of knowing since she was about 3 weeks old. And I call her a musician. I think she has another former title, but she's been playing the flute since she was big enough to hold onto a flute. And after Erica's presentation, we will then talk with and hear the stories live of two of our young people living with sickle cell. Erica?
For me, cold is an enemy. each day fighting to keep the blood flowing. For me, type SC. SC, stress and cold, triggers for me. Each day fighting to break free, but as they get closer on my heels, knees, hands, chest, eyes, rapidly throbbing pain. Who else understands, truly feels? No one but God and my fellow warriors that fight sickle cell beside me. Young to old, older and wiser is the goal. We can stand because God is greater. We can keep moving. In the physical, if I keep still, sedentary pain quickly sets in, snowballing, eyes bawling, legs struggling to move. But if I keep moving, keep going, keep my water flowing, circulation regains and I am an overcomer. Same as in my mind, heart, and soul. If I keep moving, don't settle, don't get idle, keep God's word flowing, keep going, I am an overcomer. But as we move forward, we reach back and take someone with us and pass on this message to keep moving. Pass on life, pass on that God is greater. Keep moving together. Although the enemy still tries to grab vessels themselves and make them fight each other to take your focus, but shake it loose. Keep moving. Although pain still comes, so does relief and grace and peace and joy and love. Keep moving. Some see the next day's sunshine, some see the brighter sun shine. For both, God is there, greater. Keep moving. Don't let fear, or worse yet, regret take your life. For God is greater than anything that we can or cannot see. SSSC, thalassemia, all of it. Maybe, on paper, this is my identity. But God is greater, gave me a new ID in His Word. I am Erica, ever powerful warrior princess. 34, free, strong and brave. Loves to laugh, loves music and art, loves to love. Able to stand, seeing with eyes that according to man should not see, eyes that once could not see peripherally. But God is greater than anything that I can or cannot see. Besides, I don't need to see what's around or behind me in my mind's eye, but just look forward and focus on God. Now looking unto Him who is able to keep me from falling as I keep moving, SC, stress and cold, have now been stomped and conquered. My days are lived in strength and confidence that God has now saved and calmed me. So when you see my face, I have a smile and cool glasses. God is greater, my shalom, my creator. Keep moving. Thankful to God for wisdom gifted to man to further research to help lives be lived longer and fuller. Thankful to my family and friends for the love I was given in this life. Mom, thank you for giving me that God is greater and to keep moving. To those who went before me, let it not be said that their lives of pains of shortened days is as good as it gets, or is all in vain. Keep moving. Those of you who see me today from outside this boundary and those who walk this road with me, let it not be said that we didn't try to overcome or just sat quietly and accepted whatever fell in our laps. Keep moving. To those who may hear my story and wonder, whatever happened to her? Let it not be said that the Word of God was lost, or that my legacy was empty. For she was a child of the King, kept her head high like a queen. She lived a life of joy and peace. She fought for freedom from pain and struggle. She was lit with God's radiance and a smile. She was my great-grandmother, Erica. I remember her. She lived at the beach until she was 120 years old. She loved God and people. What a life we have today. Sickle cell? You mean that disease from years ago? It's gone. Because God is greater, and we kept moving.
said musician, I think the appropriate profession is that of an artist. If you are in the market to have your portrait, we will put you in touch with Erica, because you have seen firsthand how marvelous she does. Maybe she can be commissioned to do my portrait, and we can hang it in all of our offices, because we have 7 of them throughout North Carolina. And I'm sure the staff would love to come in and see me every day that they have to come to work. It would definitely be put in some place that I would not have to see it every day when I came to work. But you've heard from Elena. She has her pens, so we hope you to join her. You see the artwork of Erica, and you see how great they are. And it's not that they have not been sick, that they have not had to deal with some of the complications of sickle cell, but they are warriors. They have fought their way through whatever they've had to come through, as we all do in life. And so when you hear the negative things about people living with sickle cell disease, you can now share stories. Well, I heard from people living with it, I saw from people living with it that that's not the truth. So now we're going to hear from Jonathan Naton. We have known Jonathan for quite a while, but he has been a true warrior for us. Good evening, Jonathan.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. You look like you're feeling well. Jonathan just had a birthday last week, and he didn't invite me to the party, but he did say he was going to have a good time. So, Jonathan, you want to tell us a little bit about you and your experiences?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Jonathan Anton. Um, as Miss Kathy said, I just turned 42 on September 23rd. Actually, also celebrated 14 years of marriage to my lovely wife Kendra on September 27th. So was partying a little bit. But just to give you a brief history about me, originally born in Brooklyn, New York. My mother was retired, a retired nurse, and so she knew pretty much from birth that I had sickle cell. She was aware that she had the trait. She was unsure about my father, but still had me tested, and so I knew from birth. I came up, let's see, for the first 18 years of my life, I probably had a crisis maybe once a year. After about 18 years old is when things started to pick up for me. I had more stressors. I had a growth spurt. Went from graduating high school at 5'4" to growing within a year to almost 6 feet. So that added to the increase in crises. Had an acute chest syndrome at the age of 21, I believe it was 2021. That's when I was put on hydroxyurea. After that, I moved to North Carolina at the age of 25. From then on, at the age of 28, got married. And, there were a lot of things that were taking place. More stress, more responsibilities, things of that nature, which caused me to have an increase attacks, increased crises. And I had went through a season in my life, probably in my early 30s, where I was in and out of the hospital. I think in the emergency room, I was going to the emergency room approximately twice a week on average, and hospitalized about once a month because of the crises that I was having. And I went through a state of depression. I had went through a point where there were suicidal thoughts, attempts on taking my life due to the fact of going through what I was going through from a point of 18 years of my life, pretty much not having little to no crisis to constantly having crisis over and over and over again. And so I got to a point in my life where it just became overwhelming. And my marriage was being affected. My finances were being affected. Everything pretty much that could go wrong was going wrong. And, I got pretty much hit rock bottom and just was kind of tired of life, was tired of what I was going through. I got connected with Cone Health, and there was a particular doctor there at the time that, just had a talk with me and said, that there's more out of life. You're not what your disease says that you are. And, I took that to heart. After she said that, I had got to a point where I had made up in my mind that I no longer wanted to live the life that I was currently living. And at that point, I just truly made a decision that I'm going to turn my life around. I'm going to change who I am, what is going on with me. So after that, I began to seek out to find out, figure out who I am, trying to understand exactly who I am, what I want to do in life, all of these different things, knowing that I'm married, knowing that I have this life to live. So began to drastically change everything. And what really catapulted me into the state that I am now, and I'll get into that, but what catapulted me was my faith in God, my faith knowing that Jesus is my Lord and Savior. And I began to want to understand exactly who I was created to be, why I was put on this earth. And because at one point I was actually blaming God for everything that I was going through, for the pain that I was going through, for all of these different situations that was happening to me. But I began to realize that it wasn't God who did this to me, but he made a way for me to come out of what I was going through. And so I began to understand my identity, that I was made in the image and likeness of God, and that I have a purpose and a destiny in this world. And so I began to understand that, and I began to understand that my words have great power. My words can truly change and manifest my destiny. And so I began to dig into the word of God and just truly understand who I was, began to speak. Proverbs talks about how death and life is in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. And so I began to just continually speak life over me, began to declare that I'm healed of sickle cell, began to declare that I don't even have sickle cell, began to put different things in front of me, life, listening to different things about life. Even when I would, go to the hospital, I would have crises or things of that nature. I would, instead of harping on the pain, instead of being so focused on the pain, I would in turn listen to motivational things, keep my mind occupied from what was actually going on, and began to speak life-giving things over myself. So where I'm at now, I remember there were times as far as things that I would desire to do, would want to do, I couldn't do because of that. But in changing my mindset, I never used to be able to cut the lawn. I never used to be able to shovel snow. I never really was able to play sports or things like that because of the fear of me being in crisis. I really didn't have a lot of people telling me that, hey, I could do these things. Most of the time they was like, be careful when you do these things because you're going to end up going into crisis. So it was just out of that fear of going into crisis that I wouldn't be able to do that. So now I'm able to do a lot more. I'm able to cut grass. Not only am I able to cut grass, but now I cut grass wearing a weighted vest. I exercise on a daily basis. I've been doing 100 burpee a day challenge. Some of the other things that I've done. I remember at one point in time, as far as medications that I was on a slew of medication: oxycodone, hydroxyurea, multivitamin, folic acid, vitamin D, medication for depression, Ambien, just, upwards of 10 plus medications at one point in time, Xtampza, methadone, just all various different things, trying to figure out what was going on. Since uh, March of last year, I have not gone to the emergency room. I have not had a pain crisis. The end of March, I have not had a pain crisis. I have not gone to the emergency room since since July of last year. I have not taken any pain medication whatsoever. The only medications that I'm currently taking right now is hydroxyurea, folic acid, and multivitamins, and vitamin D. So I really had to understand that, one, I had to renew my mind to who I was, to who God created me to be, renew my mind to the fact that, yes, even though we're born into this world and this world does, our bodies can be afflicted with these diseases, but the fact of the matter, the truth of the matter is, our spirit man is not born with disease, and our spirit man is the one that has true reign over our soul and our body. And if we renew our minds to who we truly are, then we can actually manifest our healing. We can manifest the things that God has written about us in the heavenly books that he has for us. And so it's just a true matter of renewing our mind. I mean, we've heard it through the testimonies spoken. Chanel with her powerful spoken word, the warrior that she talked about, Erica with her art. It was just beautiful, and talking about how, she's getting through with God. It's when we truly understand who we are, that we're created in the image and likeness of God, and that God doesn't have disease, that there's no sickness in heaven, there's no disease in heaven, there's no lack, there's none of that in heaven. When we get an understanding of that and we begin to implement that and manifest that in our lives, true change can take place. And that's what's been going on with me. Also in the process of, I've been journaling and writing down all the things that has been happening to me, and been encouraged to actually write a book. So I'm in the process. I already have the title of what I want to go through. And so I actually just started. So that's something that's in the works. Actually 2 titles of 2 different books. So I'm looking to do that. So once it actually, manifests, I will let everyone know about that. But, going from a point of being out of work, I was out of work for about 6 years. I was out of work and I was on disability. Now being employed, currently part-time, still on disability, but looking to come off of that. Just looking to step into what God has created me to be. A leader at my church, currently doing an intercessory prayer ministry, doing various different things that I thought I would never be able to do, I'm currently doing. And so it's all by the grace of God and just understanding who I am. And that's who I am right now, with more to come.
I'm looking forward to the more to come. I'm doing all I can to sit still because I feel a praise coming on. But I have to get through this, and then I can get up and give a little dance to the Lord. So we really appreciate that. Jonathan, I want to ask you a couple of questions, and feel free not to answer, but you shared that you've been married for 14 years. And congratulations on your recent anniversary. Please tell Ken thank you for sharing you with us. But I wanted to ask, because, we have many young warriors who think about or want to be married or give some thought to it, but because of that fear that you just talked about, maybe keeping them from doing that. So if you don't mind, when you were dating, Did you experience any challenges in trying to talk with your wife, or even earlier in about having sickle cell disease? How do you approach that? How did you approach that topic in your relationship?
All right. Well, I'll tell you what I did, and I'll tell you what probably should have been done. So, um, I mean, I absolutely from the very beginning, I told my wife, that I had sickle cell. Um, she was unaware of what it was, but at that time, you know, um, I was just kind of increasing in my crises, and so it still wasn't as bad as it had gotten. So we didn't really talk much about it. She just knew that this was something that I had, but we just knew that life would go on, everything would be all right. What I would recommend is laying everything out, explaining everything that you go through, the different things, so that because she was unaware of everything that it could possibly entail. Um, it did cause problems in the relationship. Not that she tried her best to be there for me. She was there for me. She continues to be there for me. But it did create a wedge within the relationship, because there would be times where I was shut down because of the pain crisis, because of the different things that I would go through. So what I would definitely recommend is do not cut the bridge of communication off. Definitely communicate, and don't have fear of going into a relationship, because I love my wife with all of my heart. And because of God, I know even more how to love my wife with the Father's love. And so where we were before, we're in a much better place now. So there's definitely joy in a marriage. So please, if that's something that you're thinking about, go for it. But just definitely communicate with your spouse, communicate what's going on with you, let them know what you need, what you're going through in the times. You may not be able to let them know exactly what you're going through in crisis because you're in so much pain, but after it's all said and done, let them know what you experienced and what you may need for the next time that it comes up, so that this way they don't just assume that you need certain things.
Oh, great. I think we can share that across the board for everybody that's looking to be in relationship. Transparencies and being open with each other. What do you feel is most or is important for people to know about people living with sickle cell?
Um, that we're normal individuals. We're just like everybody else. I mean, the only difference is you know when doing physical things, there are times where we may have to slow down. We may have to know um, the small limitations that we have, but we're just like everyone else. We can do, and you've seen that across the board with everybody that has given their videos and spoken and things like that. And so, um, don't. I think the biggest thing is we don't want to be labeled as different, because we're truly not. It's the disease is something that is going on in our bodies, but it doesn't um, paint a whole picture of who we are.
Thank you. Are any questions on the Facebook? I mean, I don't think we said it, but if you have any questions of Jonathan, feel free to put them in on Facebook, and we will be glad to do that. Jonathan, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be with us. I will share with you all that I had gotten a call at the end of the week before last, asking us to do a live presentation on Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then they said, first of all, it was for the agency. Well, it's Saturday, 10 o'clock. Staff has been doing a lot this month. So I didn't even think about asking a staff member to do the presentation. It's Saturday. I'll get up. I'll do it. It's okay. But then they threw a wrinkle into it, and they said that they needed a person to talk about. Oh, like, okay, this Saturday, 10 o'clock. Last minute, who can I call upon? And so I was led to call Jonathan. So he graciously joined us last Saturday. And in the meantime, I found out one of the warriors that we had hoped to have featured today was not available. So on Saturday, he got a request to be here on Thursday. So we really I appreciate each and every one of the warriors who took out of their schedule to either pre-record a video and send it to us. Jonathan, who was going to be, is live. Devron, unfortunately, she was having some issues and could not get her phone and the Wi-Fi and all of those things to work. And that's okay. She thinks she's off the hook, but we're going to come back again. We're going to ask her again to come back. She don't know it yet because she said she was going to have to go offline, but we're going to let her know. She's not off the hook. So you're going to get to hear her story down the line. So we have another question, Jonathan, and it's okay if feel free to say that you don't want to answer, but if it's not too personal, how has sickle cell affected your decision to have or not have children?
So me and my wife, we do want to have children. We currently don't have children. We have looked into in vitro, but as I said, as spoken before, it is something that I know that is already in the plan, in our divine plan, that we are supposed to have children and we will have children. As far as the decision, to do that, as far as how it is affected currently right now, we've been trying for quite some time and, it hasn't happened as of yet. Will it happen? I absolutely believe it will happen, whether it's through in vitro, or whether it's through natural causes. I know that God is going to provide that. But, we are still enjoying the process of doing that. I'll say that.
Okay. We're going to leave that part alone. But then I can tell you, old wives' tale is go buy your house, buy your car, get a new job because it comes in threes, and that's when the children follow. When you start getting in debt, then here they come to add to the debt. So I'll just share that little wise tale that people have shared in the past. But
okay.
You just wait.
Okay.
Because when he's ready for you to have a child, you will have that child. And I have no doubt that you and Kendra will be awesome parents for your children. Yes. Every child needs a little extra. So, at least two. Okay. It has truly been an honor to be with you today. I thank everyone who has logged on today. I hope that we have been instrumental in increasing your awareness about sickle cell disease. If you need more information, just please contact our agency. And as I stated, we have 7 locations. Our main office is located in Greensboro at 1102 East Market Street. Then we have a office in High Point, Winston-Salem, Charlotte, Fayetteville, Goldsboro, and Jacksonville. Now, each one of them have their own telephone number, but to keep you from trying to remember 7 different numbers, you can always call 1-800-733-8297, and we will be glad to connect you with whatever office is in your area. And I cannot not say thank you to the awesome staff here at Piedmont Health Services and Sickle Cell Agency. And as some of you may know, we also have an HIV education and prevention program here at the agency. And it actually began because we had adolescents that were concerned that they might have acquired or might acquire HIV through a blood transfusion. So the programs that we have, we built on or we've started as a result of the needs of our clients. So we listen to our clients and try to give them the program and support that they need. And in addition to that, we also have a Healthy Start Try It Baby Love Plus program. We work with women childbearing ages 15 to 44, they're infants, and we have an extra component of the Fatherhood Initiative. So we work with the dads to help them be better dads. So we really appreciate that. And my hat's off to Kevin Elwood and Keystone Marketing, because without him, this live presentation would not be possible for us, and to, of course, to Global Blood Therapeutics. So, Kevin, we appreciate you for keeping our IT on at the tip of the top 10, because we only go in excellence. So, but we're in excellence because we keep excellent people in our toolkit with us. So thank you. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everyone who has taken a part in today's show. Have a wonderful evening. I know the rain is supposed to come, but still in God's time, it too can go away. Thank you.